Hi, Melis.
Hello, Rostom. Welcome.
How are you?
Fine. What about you?
You look so nice as always, but
you.
today you are even much more better. And I see also my very much appreciated Katarina there. Hi, Katarina. Great to see you.
Hi, Rostom. Great to see you.
Great
Long
to
time
see you.
ago.
How are you? How are
Yeah.
you, Katarina?
I'm very fine. Put on your
Great.
camera, please.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great that you are here with us.
Yes, I'm really so glad to learn when I see the agenda that Katarina will be there. It was really.
Yeah, for the others to let you know, we started the first gender just energy cooperatives in Georgia. So it was with RCTA, with Rostom, WCF Georgia. That was we developed financial mechanisms. So that was really a great time, and also 7 years ago. So that's great. Very
Yes,
advanced.
now we are but our Turkish partners and particularly Oral San has moved a bit further with this, and when we visited Turkey, he showed us really very nice cooperatives, and what is Troyatin doing, Katarina, is amazing, really. I'm glad to be here at this conference today. Really pleased to be invited. Thank you for this invitation, Oral and Melis.
Rostom, welcome.
Welcome, thanks.
After a minute, we can start, I think.
Melis, then we all close our microphones.
Yeah.
Yes. Can we?
Yes, we can begin. All of you are welcome. We are really very happy to hold the second international workshop on women and energy together. This year, our topic is Connect and Empower Women Working in the Energy Sector, and we bring together successful stories and initiatives to get inspire each other. First, I would like to start with our association. Troy Environmental is established in 2009 in Çanakkale, Turkey, and we are mainly working in the topic of energy transition and supporting and creating energy communities for the transition. And also this workshop is supported by Istanbul Bilgi University, Mythos Foundation, and Stiftung Mercator. In 2020, we started the Civil Society Exchange Partnership Program with RCDA in Georgia. Rostom is also here for our partner as our partner. We built the bridge in the Turkey and Georgia, and we plan to share the experiences of women's cooperative in both countries. And we support them to see the new example of each other's and create the areas. Sorry. Create the new areas where they can affect each other together, and we organize training series that they need in their fields, and we have brought them together with other institutions so they can expand their networks. Also, this workshop is one of them for expand the cooperatives, our networks, and our knowledge in the topic of energy. Now I would like to give floor our first speaker, Antonia from Rescoop. Hello, Antonia. welcome and thank you again for joining us. I
Hello.
will share screen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. First of all, I'm very happy that I can be joining this event today. I have prepared a relatively short presentation to start this talk. 1 second for me to share it. Share screen. Let me see. I will go full screen. Please let me know if you see this full screen. Is it okay?
Yes, we see.
Yes, we see it.
Perfect, perfect. So maybe
We see the presenters mode.
okay, so let me fix that. Thanks a lot for the comment. 1 second. I need to share the other screen. Let me see. Now, is it the right one?
Yeah, good.
Perfect.
It's okay.
Perfect, thank you. So I just added a slide because I thought that maybe some of the participants do not know RescuPU. I am Antonia Proca and I work for RescuPU, which is the European Federation of Citizen Energy Cooperatives. We are a not-for-profit association and we're based in Belgium, Brussels and Antwerp. We actually now our team has grown a bit. We're about 15 people working for RescuPU, and we represent about 1,900 ResCoops around the EU. Meaning that this covers about 1,250,000 citizens that are involved in the European energy cooperatives. So for today's discussion, I thought that maybe we can start by discussing, okay, what is important to actually have more women in the energy cooperatives. And there are different reasons for that. One reason that has been put forward by former Irish president and UN Rights Commissioner Mary Robinson was that, okay, climate change is in fact is a man-made problem, so it must have a feminist solution. So we can say that then women are problem solvers and climate needs us. Then there is another argument, more coming from the economic perspective, has been put forward from by Christine Lagarde, the former president of European Central, the current actually president of European Central Bank and former director of IMF. What she had argued is that when more women join the workforce, everyone in fact benefits. So there we go, we have women as being an important workforce and clarifying that the economy is actually that needs us. And then another argument that has been put forward by Kofi Annan, former Secretary General of the UN, is a bit more complex, is that gender equality is more than a goal in itself. It is a precondition, in fact, for meeting the challenge of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, and building good governance. So what do we learn? We learn that the women are actually good at governance, critical for a fair and sustainable development, and society needs us. So climate needs us, economy needs us, the society needs us. We bring all these things together, but maybe if we try to use our own words, let's say, why do we need women? We need women because they're smart, they're hardworking, they're caring, they're fun, and very interesting. But maybe a critical thing to say is that they are half of the population. And it's very funny that sometimes we go ahead forgetting about half of the population. So as RescuPU, we have, in fact, of course, we take pride on the fact that, and we advocate the principles, the 7 cooperative principles of the International Cooperative Alliance, and 3 of those principles are putting, let's say, are underlining, are aligned with the gender equality, the democratic governance, 1 person, 1 vote, the voluntary and open membership without any discrimination, no gender, no social, racial, political, or religious discrimination. And of course, the focus on education, training, and information for everyone. We wish to cooperatives wish to support and empower people. Then, as Rescoop EU, we are a member. We have signed actually the charter of the Cooperatives Europe. You can see in the screen as well, cooperatives provide decent employment and help reduce inequalities which affect the most vulnerable people, including women. The equality between women and men and for all is at the core of the cooperative identity and as well as of the European Union. So this is like the Gender Equality Charter of Cooperatives Europe, and we at Rescoop EU have actually signed this as we're a sector organization of Cooperatives Europe. But then also as Rescoop EU, as an organization, we have this in our statute. We have the particular rule, let's say, that when we have like a legal person as a director, and this should be actually this role should be fulfilled by two natural persons of different genders. So our president currently is male and the vice president is female. Now, as Rescoop EU, we were also we took the initiative more than a year ago, actually, to launch a gender power working group for our members, where we try to share all the good practices and learn from each other. We have had several meetings. We continue. Last week, we had another meeting to revisit, let's say, our strategy and see where we stand with the activities. After a lot of discussion and a lot of conversations and inspiration, we developed actually our ambition statement. This is the strategy that I mentioned. You can find it online. I can put it also later in the chat. We have the ambition statement where we describe a lot of things that for us are important for the different members of Rescoop EU, the different energy cooperatives, energy communities to engage. Issues that relate to the simple communication, simple, not necessarily simple, but issues around communication, putting women in the front, the language we use, the networking, empowering women, but also like more like structural issues like relevant, I mean, in relation to the statutes, in relation to different barriers that may be in place and that we wish to support our members to remove them. So as I mentioned, we wish to learn from each other, and I have collected now in the next couple of slides some good practices. So for instance, I start from this. This is from one of our members, BBN. BBN, in fact, they are involved, they engage in indeed having this kind of a gender just approach in their communication. And if you go to their website, you can see this scrolly telling, in fact, they call it. I found it interesting, where they have this female figure discussing how it is to be like a member of an energy cooperative. And what are the responsibilities, what are the benefits and things like this. But beyond this scroll, this imaginary figure, BBN has also been one of the initiatives, members of ours, that they also try to be respecting the principle of gender balance when it comes to the communication. Here you see in an event 50-50, like both experts from both genders. Katarina, later on, she will also share some of her experience in the field. So this is also crucial to have like the woman indeed, to give them the opportunity to speak and be seen, be visible. Then another member of ours, I go now from Germany, I go to Greece, Electra Energy Cooperative. There we have when the cooperative was established, one of the first conversations that they had was about, okay, who's going to be the president of this cooperative? And they were discussing that, okay, we should better have a woman taking also the lead. because this will have like an additional value. Of course, it's not like they were like different people are involved, but having like I mean, engaged and participating actively. But having Miriam in particular case to the front, it will also give the additional incentive for more people, for more females, more women to be involved and engaged in energy communities. In Greece, which is an area, I mean, a country that the gender balance, let's say, in different professional settings is not exactly just, let's say, we still have some challenges to address. Another example is again from Greece, Attica Energy Community, a more recent energy community that followed the example of Electra. They also have a female leader, but the issue of gender equality, gender justice is also reflected in the logo. If you see the description, I copy pasted what I translated, in fact, from Greece, from Greek, what their logo represents. It's supposed to be symbolizing parity, diversity, equality, and cooperation among members. So you can see that they're more proactively, you know, try to communicate and make the issue visible. Then from Greece, I will move to Spain and Soma Energia, where Soma Energia, they have been active for more than 10 years now in the energy community field. Here is important to say that they have started to also discussing different mechanisms that could support the more and more women to be involved. And one mechanism as such is the issue of safe space, into brackets, which is with this we mean some meetings that only women are invited, so that they can express more freely their beliefs, their ideas, their worries, their interests. This is something that they are experimenting currently. Another example from Spain is the example of Zenergia. It was an initiative, it has been an initiative that has been supporting also from Soma Energia. And then we see that the women actually are not only members, but in this particular case, they are the ones that are installing the solar PVs. So we see that the women can do much more, you know, they don't need to only be like a passive, let's say, a viewer of these kind of activities, but they can actively engage on the topic. Then from Spain, we move back to Brussels. Not exactly Brussels, actually, Belgium, Flanders, more specifically, I should say, EcoPower. EcoPower is another cooperative, very experienced cooperative, and it actually, we were discussing in one of the previous meetings that we had in the context of the Gender Power Working Group, their strategy, the strategy that they have developed to engage more and more women in the activities of the cooperative, and to give them the opportunity to voice their ambitions and wishes. Here you can see in the screen there are different areas of work. They have like questionnaires, surveys. We talk about this particular language that is being used in the overall word and open communication with the outer world, let's say. It's the representation, is a lot of things that this cooperative has been focusing on. Then in the context of the Gender Power Working Group, we have also been reaching out to experts, and Katarina, again, I refer to you, has been with different colleagues from WECF, has been sharing, have been supporting us with particular tools and different methods that the different cooperatives can focus on. This is also in context of one of the projects of RescuPU that had a particular focus on the issue of gender, the EUCINA, European Citizen Energy Academy. We had the opportunity to really learn and start applying these different methodologies and tools, like, for instance, the Gender Action Plan, among others. In the context of EUCINA, the team of WECF has also done an analysis on the status, let's say, of the energy cooperatives in our community. And you can see in the screen the link. But if I can share, maybe Katarina will share more about this later on. I don't know, Katarina, but one of the things that this survey showed is that maybe I will share the fact that we've seen that some one in 5 cooperatives do not have any women in their management board, nor and the same balance, the same percentage applies. 1 in 5 cooperatives do not have any woman in the advisory board. This is the lowest, of course. This is the most difficult, let's say, to break, to start adding women on board, but we hope to keep on tracking this, and we hope to see that there's going to be some progress. I invite you all to have a look. It's a very interesting analysis, and there are a lot of suggestions and recommendations on what can be done. I know that I don't have the time to go through them. I will just mention that maybe this first thing that we should focus on is to really start talking about the issue using an intersectional approach. Is not only, gender as such is not only a binary issue. It's more complex. There's a spectrum, and there's other different socio-economic elements that they are connected, let's say. So we should have this in mind when we talk, when we communicate with our community members. And of course, the rule number 1 is to start really now. We need just equitable, inclusive transition now. And the last slide that I wanted to close my presentation with is that we should really try to remember that we need women, but we should really try to avoid the trap, let's say, of just using women as the so-called diversity trophies. I feel that sometimes I've seen we talk about, the fact that how important is to have women in the events, but if I see that there's only maybe a woman, and then this person is either responsible to be facilitating the conversation or maybe have like one very short contribution. I think that we should go beyond the ticking the box of having some women on board, and we should really give the opportunity to women to have a say and have the influence that they can have. I think that this is the last slide of my presentation. Yes, I will stop sharing. And if there is any question, I'm happy to address.
Thank you, Antonia. If anyone have question, they can ask also now or end of the presentations. Now it's turn to our second speaker, Katarina from WECF.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katarina, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Should I just go ahead? Yeah. Yeah, great. So thank you very much for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here. I just talked to Ola and to you, Melis, beforehand. So I think it was my first trip to your organized energy cooperative conference in Çanakkale, and you already had gender and energy communities on the agenda. I think that is really great, and so to go ahead, because that is what we have to do. It's a process. So to gender mainstream also the energy sector, and so I'm really happy to be here. I will also share my screen, and yeah, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, yep. Yeah, so Antonia already mentioned some points. So I'm from WCF, Women Engaged for Common Future. So we did already some joint projects with Troy and with Resco, with Stefan, with Rostom. So some of you, Miriam, we know, so we are a community. It's great. I think it's great to mainstream the topic women in energy. And as Antonia mentioned, so not just ticking the box, but be really so to increase gender equality in the energy sector, because it's we know, so there are various reasons already mentioned. So at the moment we are also at this point from the fossil centralized energy system to a decentralized renewable energy system. So it's a big chance so to be more diverse, to be more just. So we have to do it. I think that's very important, because if we don't include more diversity at the moment, so we really would waste time and money and resources, because now investing in long-term investments for energy efficiency, for renewable energy, for grid expansion, so for infrastructural projects, so it's really crucial to do it and to go ahead with renewable energy, because it's not only a technological transformation, so it will create jobs, and it will be also a social transformation. So it is, and so it's great that so your arguments, what you have listed, Antonia, that's so important. What I wanted to show is the so-called gender dimensions, because we so we talk often about that we need more women in the energy sector and on different levels. So productive work, which is very important, because it will there will be a lot of chances, there are a lot of chances for new jobs, for decent jobs. So it's important to have these chances and opportunity for everybody. But it's also to see the sector of the reproductive work. So to see where women have taken over the higher share of care work, for example, meaning at the one hand suffering on time poverty because they have more responsibilities, on the other hand being the energy manager of the family, of a household, for example, having skills, having information, being able to be a change agent, for example, that needs to be included. So it's not only energy policies, the energy sector, so it's also here the sector of care work, reproductive work. It's the same with this decision-making and power. So we need more women for decision-making to include the interests and the needs of the women. So it's no guarantee having more women on the boards. Of course, we need gender trainings, we need arguments, but anyhow, we need here also equality, and also mentioned by Antonia, of course, more women, but anyhow, more diversity, more intersectionality with different background, different education. So that's very important. One more point is also resources and infrastructure. So who has access to resources, for example, when talking about the energy transition. So we all know that, for example, increasing energy efficiency in the building is a very big task and homework we have to do very quick in the next 5 to 10 years. And what do we see? So who owns the buildings? Who owns the land where you could plan and develop a wind park, for example? So the majority is men in all European countries. So it's a big range, but I think it's Austria where the ownership of women of land and building is really very low. And so it needs to be considered who can take a decision, for example, and who, for example, who is benefiting from grants. And here it's also very important to include gender and more social dimensions when we set up grants for energy efficiency, for energy poverty. The topic of body and health. So we know we have differences. We know that women have a different perception of well-being temperature. We know that women are more heat and cold sensitive. We unfortunately know that women are suffering, are more affected by winter mortality. So that is also very important when talking about energy poverty, when talking about measures, what to do, about policies. And overall, it is our world where we live in. It's androcentristic world. It's a world with male norms, and everything what is not a norm is a deviation. So it could be interpreted that we are deviations, but sometimes we see in the research, for example, what is the base for research is mostly male data, and that's a so-called gender data gap. And what does it mean? That means that we have the big picture, and when talking about gender just energy policy, it's maybe also health policy, it's labor policy, it's tax policy. So it's what we have to include. But we have what Antonia showed us is also that we have very good examples. We move ahead to mainstream gender in the energy sector, and we have some tools. I would like to show you very quickly what could be done in the energy sector, and also to see where could you step in, depending if you are being engaged in an energy community, if you are being engaged in the municipality as a big international corporate, for example, dealing with energy. So there are different tools to increase gender equality in your field, in your company, in your organization. For example, that's gender analysis, just to see how is the situation. So here we will hear from Stefan. They analyzed energy communities in Germany and Japan. How is the situation? How many women are represented in the boards as members? How much can they invest? How is the situation? And as soon as I have the information, I can change something. I could, for example, start a recruiting program for women to become members. But so the analysis is the first step. The second are targets and indicators. It's also to say we would like to have more female members, more younger members. We would like to have an ambition statement, for example, what is done by RES Group, what is great, because we also know that umbrella organizations are very important and role models when it comes to what can be done for more gender equality. And very important, gender trainings. Gender trainings means not only training for women, but really for all gender and mainly for men. So to provide arguments, why do we need more gender equality? Also mentioned by Antonia, because it's more sustainable, it's more successful, it's more diverse, we are more powerful. It's a human right. And so there are many social, economic, environmental arguments. And so really to provide concrete arguments and to show how unjust the energy sector at the moment is. And we can't afford to reproduce this injustice for the next decade. And the next topic, so women's empowerment, that is what many people are associating with equality. That's women's empowerment. That's training for women on technologies, on leadership. So we see in Germany, for example, trainings for women on balcony models, just to have a very easy solution to produce your own energy, on photovoltaics, so this on technologies, to set up mentoring programs, to set up networkings, and to think about, do I want to have a training only for women, or is it a mixed training? And this is a safe space that we experience, that it's very important if women enter the still male-dominated energy worlds, that you have to feel safe, and that it's very important, because sometimes it's not fun to be the first or second women, for example, in a very male surrounding. So here we have tools. Communication, we know gender just communication has a big impact, and I will show you some examples. And of course, policy and advocacy, also to go ahead on national, on regional, on EU level to request gender just policies. That's a big issue that So we see equality strategies, we see energy programs, but we don't see a coherent policy. I think it's difficult, but that's very much needed. So that's a good news. We have gender tools, and just talking about gender responsive policies, talking about the European Green Deal, RescueEU, the Renewable Energy Directive, for example. So we see there would be so many entry points for gender in these directives and the policies. So for example, for renewable energy, women are more vulnerable to energy poverty. For the productive work, for example, so the male-dominated environmental sector, I have meant the mobility sector, so where we see that how much money is spent for individual transport, and we know that men do use more individual transport and they benefit more from grant programs, for example, for electrical vehicle. This needs to be considered in all topics on energy, on climate, on agriculture, on food, etc. So here there are very clear recommendations. I think many points have been addressed at the policy level and now it needs to be implemented. And just to show how it could look like, so with gender just energy community, so it's really, so overall we reduce inequalities. That's a very big issue at the moment. We see people on the streets also fighting against high energy prices, against inflation. So we see the widening gap between poor and rich, so less inequality also in terms of gender, in terms of rich and poor, urban, rural, etc. It's very important. We have more power. So Antonia said it, it's 50% of the population. We know that we lack skilled workers, we lack resources, we lack a lot. So we have here more power with a higher participation. So because it increases the acceptance, it's more sustainable, because we also know from studies that gender just energy and climate policies, they lead to more sustainable and long-lasting measures. It's a successful energy transition because gender just energy projects, they are more effective and have a wider scope and have more impact. That means we are able to go towards this highly needed transformation with less poverty, with gender equality, the energy transition, with decent jobs, and also with climate protection. So that is possible here. And also I show you 4 examples, good practice. So it's also shown by Antonia at WCF. We do at the moment Horizon 2020 funded project. It's Women for Renewable Energy. And here we developed a big capacity building program. What you see here with a lot of toolkits to increase the share of women in the energy sector, mainly in the renewable heating and cooling sector. So you could use it, it's online, you could just approach us. So it means there are instruments around. The second is energy poverty. We know that women are more affected by energy poverty than men. It's also a project, EmpowerMed, where we develop measures, activities, recommendations, how to include this point that women are more affected and that we have also the according policies. And the last points are, for example, it's on communication. So sometimes it's a bit underestimated, sometimes it's overestimated when we talk about gendered language. But overall, it's important to be aware, what do you want to transport? What should be your message? And so just to think about, and when screening the German web pages of the German energy cooperatives, there would be a lot to improve in terms of gender equality. So it's here some examples what could be done also, so to change the language, to change the pictures. That is always a more or less an easy exercise. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very happy to answer your question or to take part in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katarina. If anyone have a question, we can wait. I guess no. Yeah, now we can pass our third speaker. Our third speaker is Dolunay Güçler Küpeli. She is joining from Turkish Offshore Wind Energy Association and also the Turkish Women in Renewables and Energy Network. Welcome, Dolunay, and thank you again for joining us today.
Hello, it's very nice to be here and thank you for inviting me.
Thank
Now
you.
I will share my screen. Can you see the full screen?
Yes, that's good.
Okay. Okay. I'll just, before starting, I'm representing for the Turkish Women in Renewable Energy as Green Color Women Association and also a Turkish Offshore Wind Energy Association. So I will give some information, both of them. But before this, I just want to give some brief info about myself. I am graduated in Istanbul Technical University in Geomatics Department. An exchange in the Spain in Universidad Politécnica de Valencia for 1 year. After I graduated the university, I worked on the university for some RD projects. And after these RD projects finished, I just started to work for Enermet Energy Meteorology. It was about wind and solar project development, owners engineering, due diligence, administrative issues. While I was working for Enermet Energy, I completed my master thesis. So the subject of this thesis was the determination of the best area for solar power plant. I was using geographical information system and using multi-selection criteria analysis. I give these details because it is widely used in solar and the wind energy sector. After working for 5 years, I started to work for Borusan and BV Energy in the site management team. There were 4 projects. They were ongoing at the same time, accordingly, wind site. So I was the connect point from the site and to the central office. These projects are completed. They were the wind projects. So I was working for the wind and solar engineering department. And again, I was working for project development, wind assessment. There were several tenders. We had 10 projects. We acquired 10 projects. I was working for them and yield assessment and etc. things. So while I was working for the Borusan and BV Energy, I started my PhD. It is continuous. It's on the offshore wind energy, of course. And when we come to the 2018, TVR is established in a LinkedIn platform. The founder of the TVR, Sedef Budak, one day she's getting bored with why I am the only woman on site. So she decided to create this platform. Whenever I see this on LinkedIn, I just want to be a part of it. So I became advisor board member and then mentor. In 2021, TVR get together with the GVNet and Million Women Mentors and other networking groups. We are working together with this group and we have good connection with international networking. And the same year, Turkish Offshore Wind Energy Association is established, and I am the board member of this association. And currently, I work for the GIZ, also German agency for international cooperation. We are making a European project. We are developing a curricula for wind energy to have a high quality wind workforce. When we come to this year, Turkish Women in Renewables and Energy Group became a legal entity. It's called YEKAT in Turkish, Yeşil Yakalı Kadınlar, Green Color Women in English. So I will share some information about the Turkish Offshore Wind Energy Association. The aim of this association is increase and develop investment on offshore wind energy Turkey. We want to bring together marine and energy industries and coordinate the collaboration. For this report, we want to increase awareness. So we have lots of activities. We made webinars. You can see one of this is in the Wind Europe, World Bank, Ministry of Turkey Energy, and we organized a big Marantec Expo. And in this Marantec Expo, we initiate a Black Sea Offshore Wind Energy Federation. This is a Bulgarian, Ukrainian, Georgian wind energy associations leaders, and we are initiate this federation, and a signing ceremony is held in Izmir. And we have some projects. This is the Offshore Wind Energy RD and Test Center. You can see the letter of intent. We are aiming in Balıkesir city in Bandırma, near the shore in Marmara Sea. We are establishing a big offshore wind energy RD center to get high quality, qualified workforce for offshore wind. Even we don't have any offshore wind project yet, but we know we have to be prepared. As you see in the map on the top, we have 4 seas around us and we have a huge potential. This map is a World Bank map. We have 75 gigawatt capacity potential for this report. So we know our potential. We want to open it to use. And also we have one Horizon project. We have a small part of this project. It is a Black Sea offshore wind. We take part for the dissemination and maritime spatial planning. This is my main subject area actually for the study in PhD. And there will be a floating wind turbine in Bulgarian Sea. So we are happy to be part of this project. When we come to Green Color Women Association, I want to shortly about the say our missions are gender equality, to contribute to gender equality in business life, women employment, to increase women employment level in energy transition, quality education, to provide quality education to the energy industry. We want to see more women in our sector, preferably in high level. Our member profile, you see, 34% of engineers. We have lots of engineers, experts, and we have student members, CEO, and others. And what we have done for TVRE, or Green Color Woman, we try to increase awareness. We organize green calls, green classes, green talks, panels, woman-to-woman mentoring program. This green calls is raised the knowledge and awarenesses levels of its followers on renewables, sustainable, green, inspiring, and interesting technical, administrative, and social issues. Green classes are more technical lessons, actually. I have given one of the lessons is wind energy development. How can we develop a wind energy project? And green talks, we are hosting generally C-level guests to inspire young colleagues and students. And we are organizing woman-to-woman mentoring program. And for 3 years, I'm one of the mentors. I'm really enjoying this program. I can see my future colleagues when I talk, or some colleagues that now they are in different levels in their company. So this makes me very happy to see their success. And this is a special technical program. This is, it's very valuable program. It is a program for 3 days on site. We are organizing this with the Nordex Academy, and it's totally free. And after education, some of the students now they are working as a colleague with us, and I'm very happy to see them and very happy to working with them. And also we joined this Mermaid National Sailing Cup. This is a sailing cup just for women. This is the first time we have joined this, but we had the third phase. We want to be seen in different areas. Now we come to the employment issue. The IRENA report, there are 21% women working in wind energy and 32 is general renewable energy sector. We were using these reports all the time because we do not have our own report. So we feel the lack of this own report, and we create the gender equality report in energy sector for GIZ REMI group. After this report, we can talk more specifically about Turkey. In this report, there are 31 countries and 907,000 employees. And we found that we are just 15% overall energy in women employment. In solar sector, there are more women. This makes us happy. But in wind, we are just 8%. You can see this report in English also. It's English available. If you just write me or if you send an email to info@tvre.org, also we can send you the English version of this report. We want to see a woman in all the area for the energy sector and in high level, preferably. So these 4 associations, I just want to give some brief information. And thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolunay. If anyone have a question, we can take the questions.
We wrote our questions
I
down.
can see
Sorry.
some questions is written, I think.
To
Yes,
Gülnar
Rostam.
Hanım, yes.
We don't have any offshore wind project in Turkey. This is why we established this association. We want to have target for 2030, 2040, and 2050. I think hopefully in few months we will have targets because we are making so much awareness activity. So I think they will decide to put some targets so we can work on it. And the second question, actually, I don't know.
Is there a second question?
Are there any offshore energy companies owned by women? I don't know, actually.
Great work and such motivating initiatives.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, Dolunay. Really, these are very good experiences, and thank you sharing for this us.
You're welcome.
If there is no more questions, let's go our 4th speaker, Stefan from World Wind Energy Association. Hello, Stefan.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. Great pleasure to be with you. I was in Çanakkale, I think it was in 2010, not for a conference, but we had a World conference in Istanbul. And I saw some of the wind farms that you have in this beautiful area. So when you invited me, I thought of that in Troy. Of course, I visited as well at that time. Very, very pleasant area. So A great pleasure to be here, and maybe one day you can also have the event in Çanakkale so that we
Yeah,
can.
we will. Now you're on our list. In a short time, we will invite you for face-to-face meeting.
Yeah, that
Also
sounds
for all our speakers, other speakers also.
that sounds very
Yes, the
very
floor is
very
yours.
pleasant. So let me show you. I think some of you have already, of course, heard my presentation and what I'm going to speak about now. Let me just see. Can you see it well?
Yes, that's good.
Good. So, yeah, my name is Stefan Xenger. I'm from the World Wind Energy Association, and we've been working on community power, I think, for now 15 years at least. We noticed and understood that community power, which means local ownership, local control, local benefits of wind farms, but also renewable energy in general. We've noticed, of course, that that has a very positive role when we talk about the transformation of our energy systems. And we've been starting to wonder about gender balance in community power, which in itself should be inclusive, of course. And then thinking about or understanding and just seeing that the climate movement is been very, very kind of has a strong impact on the public debate. And that's mainly driven by women. Everybody knows, of course, Greta Thunberg. In Germany, we also have a Luisa Neubauer, and other women are kind of dominating that. We had the impression that in the case of community energy, it was just our impression that women are not yet so visible. So we did a 2-year project analyzing the share of women first in community energy projects, and that was done in Germany and in parallel in Japan. And we then, of course, also tried to understand what could be done to increase the share of women. And just recently, we published 10 guidelines and recommendations how that could be done. So what you see here is the supporting organizations, which, as you see, there was also some of the organizations that were already mentioned here, like Bundesbürgerenergie from Germany, like the Global Women's Network for the Energy Transition from Japan, the Community Power Network, REN21, and some more regional, of course, organizations. They were involved, and we had also an expert committee which kind of gave advice on how to do the project. So the key conditions, or the kind of, as I said, the starting point of why we did this work is that we first take it as, given that community energy is a key precondition involving the citizens, not only in the industrialized countries, but all over the world, make them share the benefits, participate. And hand in hand with that also means that community energy needs to be inclusive and participatory and democratic. So summarizing the results of the first year in just one bullet point here, what we found out in the first year based on empirical research was that women are really underrepresented. So what we assumed at the beginning came out as a reality. 29% of the shareholders in those cases that we analyzed in Germany, 29% of the shareholders are female, and they hold only 27% of the shares. There were some estimations years before, they were lower than that. So we also assume that there is a growing share of women, but of course, this is far beyond kind of equal representation of women. Japan, it's not so easy to say it's 20x% because they also have often companies or other cooperatives which are shareholders. So you cannot, it's actually not binary again here, not at all. But what we understood also is that the share of women in Japan in community energy, and there are also many projects there, in particular cooperatives, is even lower. I wanted just I added this slide here, which is not kind of directly related to my main presentation, because we just published 2 days ago the global installation numbers of wind energy, and we published the numbers for the middle of 2022. But I thought that this is important to make everybody understand how big wind energy has become. And this is really now a pillar of the energy supply worldwide. We have now around 8% of the global electricity supply, and it's still growing with a growth rate of 13%. So we expect by the end of this year, 950,000 megawatt of installed capacity around the world, which equals a growth in this year of 110,000 megawatt. And the question is, of course, this is a growing business, a growing industry. When you look at it, and it will be a pillar together with solar energy of the energy supply, are the opportunities, are the benefits really distributed equally? So really intentionally look at this, it's really big. So we must make sure that this happens in a way that is inclusive and doesn't kind of strengthen or support inequalities, but rather helps to remove them, get rid of them. So we asked in the second year, women and men who are not part yet of the community energy movement. So we tried to get some random, do a random survey. And most of these people, we also asked them, are you already part of a cooperative or a community energy project? We're not. So we asked them, what keeps you back from taking part in community energy? And we've already published the German version. The full English study will soon be published, and then you find all these with nice English translation. You see that the main limiting factors are, and I think this is in line with what you've already heard before, it's time. 41% of the women said that time is a problem for them. It's money, availability of money, and that's also interesting, the kind of I don't feel well informed. I don't feel comfortable about community energy. So these are the three factors that we should bear in mind. When you look at the men, they also pointed these two, but going briefly back, it's 29%, 19%, 41%. It's here 26, 10, 35. So it's clearly less than in the case of women. These three factors: time, money, and information. We have, as I already mentioned, we have come up with 10 recommendations, and the first three are kind of related to that. It's important that those community energy entities help to broaden and strengthen the general understanding of what is community energy and what is the impact, and create dynamic forms of participation. Because if there is a lack of time and money, there are ways to bypass this. Also, don't make people feel they need to, if they are part of community energy, they need to contribute every day or even every week. Offer low financial thresholds for participation and investment. We found a substantial difference between rather with less shareholders, that's usually rural wind projects with a larger amount of investment per shareholder, maybe 10,000 or even more euros, which have a share of women of less than 10%. And those typically cooperatives which invest in solar energy, where you don't need to invest that much, and there the share of women is higher. So a lower share, when we look at what are the barriers, lower financial threshold is certainly important. So the other question related to that, do you even know a community power or community energy entity in your region? Women say 83% say they don't know that. You see the difference here. Men obviously know more about such groups. 69% of the men don't know a community energy entity in their region. Oh, sorry. And it's similar have you ever been offered an investment in community energy? 89% of the women say no, 86% of the men. There's not such a big difference. But again, here, the share of women is a little bit higher. So the other recommendations that we've come up with is network and build alliances with other local stakeholders. So in Germany, for example, there are examples that religious Christian groups, church, which is in particular in the countryside, of course, still an organization which is part of daily life. if cooperatives work with such groups, then it's easier also to become part of or reach out to the people and to also reach the women which are in such groups. Strengthen the direct and personal approach. That's a very important, like develop further social media activities. We've been told that really many of these community energy entities are very conservative. They really use printed newspapers for reporting about their activities. Many of them don't have Facebook, or many of them even maybe don't have a website. More open and gender-specific events. So we've heard from cooperatives which are successful that they, for example, they have a special day where they invite women only to visit a wind farm. So that's very successful, that women invite and guide through the wind farm. So it's a way of really showing, yes, we want you and please come. You are welcome here. One really big difference, and the biggest difference we found between men and women, we asked them, how interested are you in climate policies? And you see here, 57% said high interest or very high interest, and high interest was 30% and 57%. Female interest in energy policies is in a similar range. So women are very much interested in majority in energy and climate issues. But when you then ask, how do you feel about, how confident do you feel? How is your level of knowledge? Then only 2% say very high, 30% say high, 47% say, yeah, medium. 70% of the men rated themselves on the first top two levels. With in no other question or answers we got, we saw such a big difference. And I think this is really important, that the women are probably underestimating their own knowledge, don't feel comfortable with these topics. And that's when we talk about communication strategies and how to attract, in particular, women really needs to be considered. We also ask, why would you participate in community energy? This is, of course, giving hints how to communicate, what makes it attractive to be part of a community power group, mitigating climate change, expanding renewables, local value, social contribution. These were the factors that were mentioned most often. Money, not so much. I mean, of course, we don't know whether this is really the truth. I mean, everybody probably hesitate a bit to say, I want to earn a lot of money. But still, also here we saw the difference between men and women. So the more socially attributed values, they also in a communication strategy should be emphasized. That's clear. So people are, and I mean, also in my daily life, I know many women going to the climate demonstrations, maybe connecting that when there is such many people on the street telling people, see, you want to do something, you will want to have something to happen. Here is a cooperative with a small amount of money, you can become part of it and you can actively contribute. That connected is very important. We asked the women, do you want to invest in community energy? And then 60% said, yes, that is something I would seriously consider. Undecided, 34%, and only 4% said no. So there's a big potential, a very big potential. Women want to do something. They see the need to do something. They have some barriers, and this together, if we bring this together, then we can certainly bring additional momentum into the community energy sector and eventually into the transformation towards a renewable energy. So the other set of recommendations put citizen-oriented concrete communication in the center, and not so much focus on, yeah, we will have 5% or 10% return for your money that you have, or we will build 10 more wind farms, but aim for qualitative growth so that it's growing together with, fits into the social environment. And of course, a key is have women in responsibility. We found in the first year already a clear correlation between in particular cooperatives where women are, and that was mentioned before, amongst the management, on the management board, supervisory board, they also have more women amongst their shareholders. That is very clear. So this is the overview. You will find this. I will share soon the link on our website. And I think I will not go into detail, but of course, we've also included in our study recommendations for the policymakers, because of course, even if the community energy sector wants to grow, if women are also now ready really, and we have the right conditions within those entities, still the policies must be in place which allow community energy to grow. And of course, I should mention, of course, these general aspects of pay gaps. So women have less money, they earn less, or the problem of care work, which is more on the shoulders of women. These are things that need to also be addressed by general policies. That, of course, goes beyond the discussion or what we can do here. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm happy to present this to you, and I will share now in the link in the chat the link to our website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. This is very valuable presentation. Also, it's my second chance to listen your presentation because we have also a women renewable energy cooperative, Troya Renewable Energy Cooperative. We are also a member of RESCOP in Turkey, only member actually. And this cooperative also pushes and motivates us to making this event and working in the field of women and energy area, because we know the only sector which is highest gender inequality is energy sector, because this presentation is very valuable for us. Katerina, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you very much, Stefan. Just because you compared also the data from Japan and from Germany, just did you find any significant differences in your study between the two regions?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, Japan has, and that's not so well known, Japan has a quite active community energy sector. And the share of women is even a bit lower. There are some special cooperatives which are more than in Germany, which are female cooperatives. That's also what I've learned. I mean, in Germany, we have, I think, just one which is purely female. No? That's I hear this from other countries as well. We've also discussed those kind of 10 points, and I understand that also through the study that we've had discussing these aspects, we kind of initiated a discussion process in Japan as well. The focus of the discussion in Japan, I noticed, has been more on kind of quota related policies. So what I've presented to you, and you know that we discussed this with our advisory board, so many people have contributed at the end, but we focus a lot on kind of communication aspects. In Japan, I think the discussion at the moment is a lot about quota. So how can we, how can quota for the organizations, whether it's association side or even for the cooperatives, be introduced, which I've not really noticed is so much when we talk about the community energy sector and perspective which we discussed. We discussed this, of course, in Europe as well, but not so much in the context of community energy.
I have a question, Melis. Is it possible
Of
to
course,
ask Stefan a
Rostom.
question? So, Stefan, thanks for a very interesting presentation. Really, it was really very interesting. But what could be the reasons of our underrepresentation of women in community energy in developed countries? In underdeveloped countries or developing countries or countries in transition, we as also know this. But in Germany, let's say, in Austria, or in other countries, European or non-European countries, what could be the reasons of underrepresentation, major?
I think we should see when many of these cooperatives started, and this is like, I think in the 20th century, like it started in Denmark in the 80s, in the 90s. I can just speculate a little bit, but of course, I know many of these people and of these groups. Many were kind of people like engineers with a technical focus. So they were just many men who kind of had this idea of we need to do something for renewables. And they didn't really worry much about are we in a gender balanced group here. That is something I believe is now very important the more community energy grows. But those who were starting it, they were not, most of them were not really thinking about it. And yeah, as I said, it's many engineers, such kind of people. Yeah, it's trying to explain. I don't say that this is the absolute truth.
Thanks.
May I also continue this kind of, I don't have hard facts, let's say, but we started also discussing the reason why we don't have so many women in the cooperatives. And indeed, what Stefan mentioned is kind of the historical reason that the initiative started, different priorities. It's for sure the case, but maybe nowadays there are like a lot of other reasons, like you also mentioned it, Stefan, the lack of time. If women have to take care of children, of the elderly, or all sorts of other things at home, this does not necessarily give them the time. The lack of confidence also, that this is something that they can contribute, and this is something that I will refer again to the interesting research that I mentioned. It's in the chat from WECF. We've seen that the difference, the distance, and you also mentioned it earlier, the difference in terms of the knowledge that women think they have and men think they have on the topic. This is a confidence issue that is, it seems that it's similar in developing and developed, let's say, countries, if we use this distinction. The whole framing, it's also something that if we only talk about wind turbines or sorry, or solar panels, apologies for this, or solar panels, and we forget about the community side. The community energy is not only the energy, I keep repeating. Then this is also not maybe very interesting for some people to get involved. Yeah, there's a lot of other reasons. Just wanted to add a few of the ones that we have been discussing in the group.
One more very practical aspect, if we talk about rural community energy, is certainly that, I mean, agriculture in the rural areas is formally often male, because often the men are owning the land. They are, I mean, farms are often, and this is probably throughout Europe the case, are often given from the father to the son. And so wind farms, that's why wind farms, and you build a wind farm, maybe the wife even is just not visible formally, but maybe plays a similar role. This kind of, how is someone formally involved? But just the land is owned by the man, and then the man also own the wind farm. It's some very simple, or now the solar farm, of course, that's now similar. That's a very practical aspect which plays a role here as well.
Yeah, if one can agree with you, Stefan, if I may say, but so in some cases, women own the land, but they are still underrepresented in the energy sector. While the energy and women are the most, so to say, integrated parts of their livelihood. Without women, it's impossible to have energy, or energy without women. It is the same, because women has, our friend has just said, women are very busy with their everyday lives and chores at the family and so on, and energy is an essential part of work. But sometimes they own the land, they have an ownership, but they are not presented in energy sector, whether in solar energy, biomass energy, or wind power. Wind power really needs more investment, more money, it's more technically complicated, and it's understandable why the women are underrepresented in this sector. But in other sectors like solar power devices or biomass devices, they somehow, it looks like they should be more represented. But there are a number of reasons that I think we need to investigate further on. Thanks.
I mean, one positive and last comment from my side is that, of course, the energy sector in general, there's an extremely low participation of women. Renewables is a bit better. And again, in renewables, community energy, the figures we've seen is a little bit better. So it seems we are on the right way. But of course, yeah, we are starting at a low level.
Agree.
Yes, Katerina.
Yeah, I think I think Stefan has mentioned we're starting at a low level, so we have now a better awareness and we have a better data for renewables, but yeah, so as we discussed, so it's really manifold, because you also mentioned, so just to include the women, for example, we know that women from studies that women take decisions differently, they use more proved information, and that's, for example, very important for recruiting women for energy communities, because they have a long decision-making process, they include many arguments, for example, and that's proven, so it's not just an example, and men, regarding the data, they tend to take the decision more quickly and maybe withdraw after 2 years. And I think that is how it is at the moment, but it's very important for the recruitment of women. And we see also of energy communities in Germany, they have very smart recruiting strategies, so to inform women, to include them, and just to take this into account. And yeah.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Is there any comments or contribution? Okay, our last speaker is Bengisu Özenç from Sustainable Economics and Finance Associations. Welcome, Bengisu.
Thank you, Melis. Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed the discussion here because my presentation will be a little off topic. Let me share my presentation. Yeah. So here, I hope you can see my screen. So yeah, my presentation will be a little off topic and a little short because we are not exactly working in gender issues. So I would like to talk about how, as a climate think tank in Turkey, we contribute to the climate policy and what is the role that we play within the climate policy making. We are a new association, actually, only 2 years old. And let me show you our team. So we are, yes, I mean, we are not working in gender issues. We are not working in, community-based issues, but I'm working with strong women. Not only within my team, I mean, we are a female dominant team, obviously, but colleagues in Turkish colleagues will also confirm that Turkish NGO world is made up of strong female figures, actually. So I really enjoy their contribution, especially in the climate and environmental NGOs. And how I see this is that, you know, Turkish female figures in the NGO world is actually, you know, they had the courage to, you know, discuss the transition. You know, they had the courage to take big steps, because male in this, you know, energy world is usually root for statu quo, because they enjoy the things as they are, and you know, they are not much willing to take strong decisions. So that is why actually how I see the climate NGO world as a, you know, female-oriented NGO world. So who are we? We are a research-oriented NGO. Working in the climate issues from the perspective of economics and financial analysis. But previously, I worked for an NGO in Turkey, a think tank in Turkey, which is very much focused on the industrial policy, Turkish Economic Policy Research Foundation of Turkey. Back there, we worked on climate policy as a part of the industrial policy. There, you know, what we try to do is to mainstream the discussions, the climate policy discussions, and that is why, you know, we decided that, you know, moving this discussion out of a think tank which is based as a, you know, industrial policy think tank, and form this organization as a standalone climate policy organization. So what we are trying to do is to produce data and knowledge. We are working closely with environmental NGOs, climate and environmental NGOs, and empowering their narratives to produce data and knowledge. Actually, how NGOs are operating within Turkish policymaking process is also changing. You know, they are now basing their advocacy to more on data and knowledge. So we are trying to close this gap. And also, I'm sorry, we are also building coalitions with other stakeholders, the stakeholders who are not originally involved in the, you know, more progressive climate policies. But what happened in Turkey is that we saw a distinct change in the interest in people on the climate issues, because all of a sudden we faced with the EU Green Deal, which really affected how Turkey perceived the climate policies. So that is why actually we try to close the gap within these stakeholders in terms of, you know, the main discussion of climate policy. And of course, in the end, we try to feed into the policy making mechanism. So through the data and knowledge that we provide, we try to feed into the more progressive climate policy making process. So some of our research areas are, of course, you know, we start with the coal phase out agenda, because now Turkey recently ratified Paris Agreement, and in the same time, Turkey announced the 2053 net zero target. But there's a big gap there because Turkey has not announced a coal phase-out plan. And we know that the 2053 net zero target is not in reach if we do not have a coal phase-out plan, because, you know, 35% of electricity supply is coming from coal. So we try to, you know, provide knowledge about, you know, how a coal phase out would look like, a net zero compatible coal phase out would look like, and what would be the financial aspects of that, you know, coal phase out, and the financial feasibility of existing coal plants, and also Turkey plans new coal plants. Actually, in last June, Turkey has a new coal plant has come into force. So that is not compatible with Turkey's net zero targets, and it's also not financially feasible to operate such a plant in the new, climate reality. Also, what we did was we had a deep dive into the coal economy and employment. So we produced this report on the coal employment figures and how it looked like. And in this deep dive, maybe one information that would feed into the discussion here is the gender pay gap we have witnessed. So the gender pay gap in the coal industry is 4 times higher than the average gender pay gap that we see in Turkey. So this is a significant information in terms of how a transition out of coal would also contribute to women's position in the energy sector. So of course, coal phase out also comes with the agenda of just transition. So we have to have a just transition plan, but Turkey is again a latecomer in terms of just transition discussion. So we are trying to feed into this process as well, try to come up with principles. Of course, there is no global principles in terms of just transition, but what we are trying to do is to give access to other organizations work in just transition, so that we raise awareness about the just transition principles from different perspectives, and we try to address to the sectoral and regional differences in terms of transition and how this just transition agenda should be handled in terms of these differences. And we try to come up with this list of enabling policies, and these are data driven, of course, policy advices. We work on stranded assets, and we try to provide figures on how a climate inaction would come with its own costs, in economic costs, of course, and other socio-economic costs. These are obvious. And we work in fossil fuel finance. We address the banking and the starting from the banking sector, but we address to the financial sector in general, how the climate risks can pose risks for the financial sector, the physical risks and the transition risks. We try to address to the size of the financing flowing into the fossil sector, and of course in an overall works, we try to address to Turkey's Green Deal action plan preparations, and we try to provide information to that part as well. So what is the latest? Maybe this is of interest to our Turkish colleagues, but also to colleagues who are joining us from abroad. The latest is that Turkey has just announced its new NDC. Turkey, after ratification of Paris, Turkey announced that that they are going to update the NDC. And 2 days ago, the NDC was out. But previously, we worked with other climate NGOs as a coalition to come up with this ask for a 35% absolute emission reduction, and we based our call on two important academic works, and these papers actually say that it is possible that Turkey can phase out of coal by 2030. It is possible that Turkey can increase its renewable energy, the share of its renewable energy to 75%, and increase electrification in other sectors such as transport, industry and buildings, and of course increase the share of railway transport. And with this, it is possible that, you know, Turkey can reduce its emissions by 35% compared to 2020 levels. So as a climate NGO coalition, we had this call, and we actually communicated it to the decision makers, but we faced in the end with this NDC. What this NDC gives us is that, so you see here is the 30-year average greenhouse gas emissions pathway. So only 3% annual growth in greenhouse gas emissions in a 30-year perspective. But our NDC says that the business as usual scenario, we will be increasing the emissions by 8.4%. But with mitigation measures, it is possible that Turkey will decrease its emissions by 41%. So this is the announcement of the minister. So he said that Turkey pledges to reduce its emissions by 41% compared to the business as usual level in 2030. But here we see that it is not an exact emission reduction pledge. Rather, you know, we are going to follow the 30-year average increase in emissions by 2.9%, and this will bring us to a level where Turkey will increase its emissions by 33% compared to 2020 levels. So here, the red line, you see the NGO demand actually, where we demanded 4.2% decrease by 2030, annual decrease, and a little bit increase in the emission reduction to 5%, almost 5% towards net zero. And in order for Turkey to achieve net zero with this NDC, Turkey should reduce its emissions by almost 30% annually, because Turkey also announced that it will peak its emissions by 2038. So with this information in hand, it's only possible that Turkey reaches net zero by, you know, reducing its emissions annually by 13%. So either, you know, we give up upon the net zero target, or we revise and resubmit another NDC soon. Otherwise, you know, it's not possible to have two distinctly different scenarios and have a progressive climate policy. So this actually covers up all my points. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Bengisu. Is there any comments or contributions according to Bengisu's presentation? Oral Bey.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I will thank you to Bengisu, because she have opened us a very different way, because we are speaking till the beginning of this meeting about energy communities, and the women in these energy cooperatives or energy communities or direct in the energy sector. But she opened us a brand new door, and opens our minds more effectively, because when we talk about energy or energy transition, that means we have a big problem. And this problem is climate change and the effects of the climate change, and how we can and how we must change these effects against to save our future and to save our realities. Only of it, that's I said, I must thank you to Bengisu, because it's really very, very, very important. And I will also thank you to all of the other speakers. They opened our minds so beautiful and so powerful. That was really great. And I won't say only one thing about why we do these presentations or these meetings for the second time this year, and I hope for the third time or for the fourth time in the next years. Because we have in Çanakkale, we are working directly on energy communities and energy transition with the women power. Why we are working this? Because we have here in our association also an cooperative, women, an energy cooperative, and this energy cooperative is the only one energy cooperative that is all members are women, and in Turkey we cannot see this one. Only of it, we will open this mind and this mentality or idea to share with our friends, to share with all the benefits, and it's really very, very important for the future. And thank you so much for everything, for everyone to speak, and for everything with their good words.
Thank you, Oral Bey. Last words, we are coming to leave now. Is there any last comments or contributions? No. Then it's time to leave. Thank you all for your participation. It was very valuable to get stronger together and share what we know in this field in the different perspectives, because the sector with the highest gender inequality sector, and in order to overcome this, we must find new ways and improve each other in every field. And maybe we hope we will do the third of this series in another city face-to-face, because we would like to meet you all in face-to-face in our other third series in Women and Energy in different topics. We hope this. And then see you. Let's take last photo. I want to ask you all open your cameras if you are suitable. I want to take a screenshot. Shota is also. Thank you very much.
Katarina is going.
Yeah.
No, I'm still here. Can you see me? So I'm here with the phone.
Yes,
I
we can
switch
see
on my
you.
camera, so but I
Yes.
still so wait to the next meeting.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you
you're
so
going
much.
outside. You're so close.
Yes.
Or is it about the energy crisis?
No, I go with the bike to my next meeting to the City Hall of Munich for the next photovoltaic project.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. See you
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I got